Welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. I don't know. I'm going to butcher
it. It was bound to happen at some point.
Katowice.
Yeah, Katowice. How come it's so easy for you?
Because I practiced.
Oh, man. All right. Well, you practice more than me. I guess that's why you're a pro and I am only diamond. We're going to get right into game 2. It's on the Ohana map between Paranoid and Verdi. Please take it away, you beautiful casters, you.
Welcome back, guys, to game number 2. We are going to jump into the match as soon as it's loaded, and we have a 1-0 lead right now for our Zerg player.
Yeah, we do. You know, Verdi trying to go for that push, but didn't really work out for him in the end. We had Paranoid with a very, very interesting little defense there. Not really giving too much of a damn about his third. As long as he was able to get his Mutalisks out, he knew that he would be fine and dandy.
Yeah, it was a little bit risky for him also to only attack with half of his Mutalisks. He didn't wait for all of them. He figured that he needed to attack this army as soon as possible to make sure that his natural wouldn't die. But, well, we had our guys over at the analysis desk already talk about the game in length. In the end, a very late immortal push for Verdi didn't work out for him. And now we're going to find out what he's going to do on game number 2 to tie the scores.
As we'll be going on to Ohana for game number 2 here in just a second. These two players, Paranoid obviously of Poland, whilst we have Verdi of Russia. So Verdi, I mean, there was 1 or 2 little notches in his build there, but regardless, we are now jumping on into the game here. Up in the top left-hand corner, we do have the winner of our previous game in the form of Acer Paranoid.
His opponent in blue starts to the bottom right. He lost the last game. And we have our Protoss player. It is Verdi, who was able to, as mentioned before, take down Sen at ISF in Korea with a 2-0, which was really impressive. And right now he's facing another Zerg player, but down a map already. So if he loses this game, then it's all over for him already.
Yeah, I remember, again, as you mentioned before, I remember him actually doing very, very well at the IESF in terms of his results, but we haven't really seen much of Verdi since then. We haven't really seen much of him in terms of what's been going on previously.
Yeah, I went a little bit through his history on televised matches, and I have to say that most of the games that he played in the recent past, he lost without even taking a single map. That goes for his matches against Terran, where he met Lucifon, which is a strong opponent, of course. He lost with a 3-0. He lost against Freyr with a 2-0, most of those being played on online cups. Against Lenok, he didn't take a single map at the Ritmix RSL Season 3, and lost against Jan as well. So if you just go down his match history, he is in a bit of a rough spot at this point. He really needs to win, and Paranoid is not a pushover opponent.
No, he's not. He's pretty darn good. I don't think he gets as much time to practice as people like, you know, Nurchio and Skull and Bly do on Team Acer, but still, he performs well. And as you previously mentioned, he was on Mouse, so... Yeah,
the last tournament that Paranoid played was WCG in 2012. It was in Shanghai. And he did well. He didn't get out of the group, but it was really, really close. So the performance in total was definitely a good one, but in the end it was Freya who sealed his fate. A Protoss player, but now he is back and back with a vengeance. He's up with 1-0 against Verdi, and now we are on Ohana. And once again, Verdi with the same opening, pylon blocking at the natural, and forces Paranoid to just go over to the third and attack his first expansion over there.
Yeah, Verdi meanwhile back at home, also getting his second pylon before cannon. So actually not risking the huge supply blocks that he would incur if he was going for probes constantly. He's actually not producing probes constantly just there. Well, he now just starts up and goes for that gateway as well. I mean, especially on this map, you can actually wall that off pretty quickly with the gateway before cannon, and then, you know, keep your probe dancing around there to try and wall it off if the Zerglings want to get really aggressive.
The build that he chooses is one that will really delay his entire attack. You can see that he's not only investing the entire minerals into getting the second pylon that you talked about, but we have one with the cannon once again before gateway. And this baffles me a little bit, given the fact that he already invests 100 minerals to just block the natural of Paranoid. And with the pylon at the natural, he sees the Zerglings. So he kind of forces Paranoid to attack the pylon, which is another indicator why you can get away with going into gateway, maybe even core, and then a very, very late cannon, because you know exactly what your opponent is doing.
It's a really good synergizing chain of events that you mentioned there, and
he doesn't use it.
No, exactly. He's just kind of saying, well, to hell with catalysts, I'll just go ahead and make my own little thing go on at the front here. Meanwhile, Paranoid, he's just drawing up profusely. He's happy to keep that going. He's a little bit behind right now in terms of that work count, but he'll rocket and soar so quickly. But Verdi, he's getting some good scouting intel here with that probe.
Yep. The Pro knows what's going on. We have once again Paranoid on 3 bases, and Verdi is going in this +1 attack upgrade very early in the game again. And this is one of the points that Todd touched on when he was talking about game number 1. The early attack upgrade didn't do anything for him in the first game. So now we're going to find out if Verdi is trying to change things up a little bit and tries to put that to some use, or if we just have him once again with a push into Immortals that is, as it was in the last game, a little bit delayed.
Well, at least one advantage that we're seeing here from Verdi from game 1 to game 2 is the fact that his cybernetics core is out at a much more pristine time. It is Warp Gates coming out here as well. We have Paranoid going for the 2 gas 6-minute mark, something that me and Day9 have talked about extensively in our Iron Squid casts, and even actually going for a 3rd gas here. So Paranoid really wanting to play a little bit of a got more gas every style. With the Roach Warren as well.
Paranoid already changing things up in the last game. We saw him with a fast tech into Mutalisk, trying to thwart that push as fast as possible. This time he's going for a very early timing actually for the Roach Warren. So not when you would usually see it, which happens around 7:30, 7:20. We have it now a little bit earlier. So he's not quite sure what Verdi is going to do here. He saw at least the upgrade, but now we have Verdi not with the tech. He's going into a massive amount of gateways. 8 gates in total. It's basically a double 4 gate that he's playing at this point. Yeah,
and I mean, Paranoid, considering his Roach Warren, it's actually playing that out really nicely in terms of the defense. He just needs to know that these pylons are littering the map right now.
Yeah. And here come the first units for Verdi. He's using another couple of pylons here to have a forward warping point. And so far the Roaches are building. The Spine Crawlers shouldn't be ready in time. Another pylon being built. One thing's for sure, Paranoid won't be able to take out those.
No, well, there's a lot of Zerglings and Roaches on the way here. Verdi is moving across the map with a lot of Zealots and a Stalkers. He can warp in very, very quickly off the back of this, but there's already a lot of Roaches and Zerglings on the way. Paranoid knows the importance of breaking down those rocks, and here come the Protoss.
And the Zerg player is trying to defend. He did not go and over drone, so he knows exactly what's going on. He has the Spine Crawlers in the back already. The Roaches are trying to just hunt down Stalker after Stalker, but Verdi has a very strong force here. And speed is not just done yet to help those Zerglings out, but with a +1 attack upgrade for the Protoss player, Zerglings are not really the issues if he warps incorrectly.
Yeah, and this is the strength of an earlier Roach Warren, but will Paranoid be able to utilize that in time? There's 12 more Roaches now on the way here in production. They're going to pop very soon, but in all of that time, actually, Verdi is accumulating quite a strong force in his opponent's natural, could take down that natural, and the drones, well, I mean, they're going to have to fight eventually with this as well.
And here we go, we don't have sentries, no Guardian Shield, no Force Field to just cut the army of the Zerg player in half. The rest of the Roaches are walking down the ramp. Paranoid is trying to kill this army, and Verdi can't even block one of those ramps to make sure that the reinforcements are not arriving in time.
Yeah, he's doing a pretty darn good job of whittling this down right now. He's actually taken the supply lead for the first time in this game as well. Paranoid here on the ropes as Verdi hitting a very, very nice timing, shredding up the Queens. There you go, GG.
GG indeed. What a game. Verdi going for a very, very aggressive gateway strategy, hitting this timing a lot better this time. And I'm really interested to see what Todd and the guys at the analysis desk have to say about game number 2. But what do you think about how this game played out? Do you think that Paranoid was actually in a position where he could have defended?
You know, I think it's hard to defend against. This is actually something we saw Grubby do at IEM Singapore against Slivko, or a very, very similar thing to it. And it hits ferociously. Unless you get perfect scouting off, it's difficult to deal with.
The one thing that really impressed me a little bit is that the entire time I was monitoring the army supply, and he really made it work with his micro. Yep. But well, when we talk about the strategies and about the timings, of course we have an expert for the Protoss versus Zerg matchup on our analysis desk, and we are jumping over and let's hear what Todd and the others have to say about game number 2 between Verdi and Paranoid.
Welcome back to the analyst desk. We just saw a 7-gate all-in that worked.
Yeah, it did work. Verdi basically just he went across the map, he threw down his pylons, and he just went for it. Not a lot of hesitation there, and that's really what's one of the most important things about doing an all-in like that, because the moment your opponent realizes what you're doing, especially with a Zerg player, they start converting all of their economy into lings. In this case, speed wasn't done, so it was mostly Roaches. And if Paranoid had just gotten a little bit more time, a little bit more production, he would have been able to hold that. But Verdi threw down those pylons and went straight for it.
Okay, Paranoid, I really thought that he saw this coming and he made his Roach Warren on time, and I thought this was going to be good for him, but somehow he messed up somewhere. So he ended up losing this game. So I'm taking a look right now. We are at 6 minutes 30 in the game. he's adding on his gases, and he's going to throw down his Roach Warren over here. And he does not see any gases on the expansion of the Protoss, which might mean a lot of things. It might mean he's adding on a lot of gates, most likely. But I mean, this is still pretty early. Like Protoss can take gases at like 640, and then it will still be a tech-heavy build. Like he does not have to take them at this time. So I feel like Paranoid, he was not sure, but he wanted to be safe. So he did not particularly see the +1 either. But knowing that his opponent did it in the previous game, usually it hints a lot that he might do it again. So now he throws down his Roach Warren, and it's supposedly gonna be fine if there is some kind of rush here. So he sees the Zealots and Probes move in the middle of the map here. And actually I was watching with Paranoid's vision at the time, and he did not see the Probes. He just looked here and he saw the Zealots and Stalker, but he should know right now that what's coming his way. So he's gonna get speed, and he's basically gonna try to get as many units out as he can right now. But I feel like he's investing too much in the gas right now. Like he's mining from 3 gases. He only needs to mine from 2 and get a bunch of links. And maybe his injects were not actually. They seem quite fine so far. So I don't know, like really, he was supposed to have much at this time, but this push hits so early. It's not even 8 minutes yet. The pylons are about to finish, and Verdi is going to start warping a lot of units. And yeah, he's going to make this work, basically, because the rocks were not down just yet. So Paranoid really had to finish this. And right now, I feel like Paranoid should have made a lot of Zerglings to really try to flank this, especially, like, he's going to get speed in about a minute here. Making only roaches, like, you will get those Zealots being able to tank and those Stalkers dealing damage a lot to a lot of those roaches. So what do you think, UXE?
Well, I was gonna say a couple of things. One, definitely if the rocks were down, he would have been able to unify his army at that very initial push, and instead of attacking the rocks while Verdi was getting ready to do the actual attack, he could have been focusing down the pylon and kiting the Zealots on the creep. That would have made a pretty significant difference. He also got supply stuck right at 78, which delayed some of his units. Sometimes with things like this, it snowballs very quickly. If you lose the first little engagement, it can be very hard to catch back up, especially when your opponent has so many gateways. He's got a really better ability to produce, or at least equal to your ability, and so if you get down a few units, it's very hard to get back up where you need to be.
That's true. I guess the first engagement was very important, and it definitely did not go Paranoid's way in this game. So Verdi, he's going to be able to take the second game here, and we're going to see a third map. Do you know, Jared?
Yeah, it's Metropolis.
Okay.
The series on.
So it should definitely be a different game on Metropolis. This kind of a rush is much less effective because of the overlay of the map. Like, it takes longer to cross it. It's also very scoutable, I feel, more than on Ohana. You know, on Ohana you have dead space behind your main, so you can hide buildings there. He did not particularly do it, but it will encourage this kind of strategy, so
yeah, and
really curious to see how it turns out.
Definitely on Ohana, there's not, like, you can get the Overlord below the natural, in between the main and the natural sometimes, and then one on kind of the far right, and I feel like that there's kind of like a hard place for the Zerg to scout kind of in the middle of the main, where if you've got your Stalkers positioned, there's not an Overlord that can easily come in, but on Metropolis, you have so much airspace, there's a lot of different ways you can fly in, so it might be a little better to scout in that regard.
Predictions? Game 3?
I think Paranoid's going to take it.
Well, I think so too. Metropolis is definitely a good Zerg map, and it favorizes macro, but if the Protoss player really wants to keep up the aggression like he's been doing in those games and goes for an immortal push, it's going to be very hard for Paranoid to hold.
All right, well, I think the players are ready. The good luck, have funs are being exchanged. We're getting ready to go in the game. Map 3, Metropolis, Verdi versus Paranoid. Don't go anywhere.
Game number 3 on Metropolis, and I'm really excited to see this map. This was actually the map where we had the Immortal push first emerge for the reasons that Todd just pointed out.
Yeah, the architecture of the map as well lends itself so nicely to an Immortal push like this. That being said, there can be some situations where similar architecture allows you to go for easier expansions to a certain degree, but for the most part, this is Metropolis. This is a map where there's big macro games, and this is also a map where a lot of Zerg players do actually enjoy Mutalist play as well.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the things that you can do on this map. The big problem for Protoss mostly is taking his third base. But just look at those two players. To the right side, we have the Protoss player in blue. It is Verdi, able to edge out a win on Ohana. Now he's facing his Zerg opponent on the third map.
He goes by the name of Acer Paranoid. So let's see if he's able to take the 2-1 after taking a pretty convincing game number 1 and just falling short there a little bit in game number 2.
I'm really interested to see what exactly Verdi is going to do here. Not only because of the opportunity or the chance that he's going for another Immortal push, but there's so many different strategies that we have seen on this map. In the GSL, we had players like Ace go for a blink into the main base with an observer and then suddenly just have one single sentry in a position to block the ramp. And these ramp blocks are so popular on a map like Metropolis.
And we do indeed have a pylon in base here for Verdi to kick things off. So, I mean, this comes back to what we were saying before with the potential of our Russian Protoss friends actually going for gateway openers first. He could obviously go for a forge. That's a normal possibility that can occur. But there you go, there's the gateway.
Yep, gateway opening here for Verdi, and this is very, very interesting. This already means that he will have a way faster attack. And another question arises when we don't know if Paranoid is really going to send out a drone to scout, because with the overlord movements that we have for him, he will not really see what's going on in his opponent's main base.
And there might be a little bit of a apprehension here from Paranoid as well in the way in which currently his opponent, he hasn't seen a probe. He hasn't seen anything going on. Normally, if you place a pylon down at the front of your base, a probe will be heading out to the other side of the map to try and find your opponent and maybe try and block an expansion. But thus far, Paranoid's seen nothing. And that's why he brought the second drone out to see exactly what was on the way.
So right now, this is a very dangerous situation for him to be in. We saw a lot of Protoss players just going for a 4-gate again. And a lot of Zergs are in a position where they don't really know how to deal with those timings anymore, especially since they assume there's going to be, once again, the Forge first. So Paranoid, without sending out a drone, is gambling a little bit here. He's taking a bit of a risk because he wants to have this better economy. And he's like, well, you are going to take an expansion, because let's be honest about it. Metropolis, one of those maps where an expansion for a Protoss player is so easy to take.
I like the slight you can call him paranoid in a sense here, because he's not throwing down his third hatchery yet. He's going for gas opener before that. We like that. It's going to give him a little bit more of a defensive position. So from there on, and now he knows that it's a gateway opener from his opponent here. He sees the cybernetics core as well. So he can technically prepare, be a little bit more defensive, but he even sees the expansion.
Yeah, so we have a 1 gate into expand here for Verdi. And this also opens him up to Paranoid being a little bit more aggressive, trying to hit timings here with the speedlings and a few roaches. But at the same time, the tech for Verdi is now so much better. So if he actually decides to just tech it up here and Paranoid doesn't put on aggression, which he doesn't because he gets his third base right now, then we might see a very, very interesting match between the two of them.
Yeah, definitely. This could go the long haul. This could potentially go the long haul here, unless Verdi wants to go for something totally crazy here, as he does out on his first Forge to kick things off on this wall. There's no reason why this couldn't go long. But again, I do want to come back to the fact that Mutalisks can be very, very common here for the Zerg player. There's just so much airspace to control. There's so much room that you can deal with in the middle of the map. Take great precautionary measures against a Protoss on this map.
Right now we have the speed on the tab. We have now the Forge a little bit delayed, so he can go into the upgrades. But at this point, I want to see what Verdi is trying to do here. We saw him with a lot of gateway aggression on Ohana, and it worked quite well for him in game number 1. The timing with the Immortal push, not really what you would have expected, especially with those timings just being a bit messed up. On this map, there are a lot of options, but Protoss players are always a little bit reluctant to go into the late game against Zerg, and for good reason.
Yeah, very, very good reason. It can be a little bit devastating to end up, losing your entire army and having to dance around the map against the Broodlord Infestor composition. I believe, though, the Infestor change is actually live now. The one where the Infested Terrans don't gain the upgrades, right?
Yeah, it definitely should be. What are your thoughts about that? Do you think that's enough?
I certainly think it'll make a difference. Whether or not it'll be a big enough difference is a good question. Interestingly enough, he does have hallucination queued up here as well.
Well, the thing about hallucination, sorry for that, is, what he wants to do here, he needs scouting information.
Yes.
So if you start with a normal opening, you go into your robo, and your tech is already delayed. But with this, at this point, the hallucination upgrade is something that he will use to get phoenixes. He will see if there is going to be a spire. And if you try to go for robotics and then for the observer, you are always too late if your opponent goes 2-base Mutalisk. So you need those information, and the hallucination upgrade is the best way to get them cheap, and have another means of getting information later in the game as well without sacrificing too much robo time.
Yeah, I like this, I do. It comes back to what we were saying about Mutalisk being common on this map, and Verdi realizes that, he knows that, and as you rightly pointed out, Robo will be a little bit late. He's going for the Twilight Council as well here, probably just to sync up with the +2 weapons actually.
Yeah, but I find this really interesting because we haven't seen one build in a long time. Two +2 Blink Stalkers is something that we don't see all that often, and I'm actually very interested to see if he wants to go for it, because if you think about how the map works and how many points you have where you can blink into the main base, where can you mark that in your advantage, and look, that is blink upgrade and +2 as well. That's an interesting move. I like it.
And hallucination works very well with it, because if he's just got a few sentries in the mix, he can grant himself high ground vision.
Exactly.
But one thing that is a little bit annoying about that is not having detection if you're going to move out and your opponent goes for a Roach Burrow timing.
Yeah, that's definitely true. So we have to watch if Paranoid is getting the Burrow upgrade here. But if he does not, then Verdi is in a very, very good position. And right now it doesn't really look like we are going to see a Burrow upgrade for Paranoid anytime soon. He goes into speed as soon as Lair is done. But the Overseer will at least reveal what's going on. So Paranoid doesn't have too many information, but he wants to know what's happening here. Jumps right into the Infestation tech, which makes, of course, a lot of sense here.
Yep.
So the timing for Verdi has to be perfect. As soon as those Infestors are out, it's going to be very, very tough for the Protoss player to make anything work with those Blink Stalkers.
Yeah, you're right. If they get locked down, then it takes away all the defensive edge of any kind of Blink play that would occur. And look at this. The Overseer comes on in, has a little bit of a look around, sees the Twilight Council being chrono boosted. That's a massive, massive tell.
Exactly.
That's what's going on.
With those gateways that he spotted, Verdi is now revealed. Paranoid knows exactly what's going on. How is he going to react? We have Pathogen Glance now. We have him with another Macro Hatch trying to just get additional lava out there. And he's actually building a few drones too. He's going into Spine Crawlers, but this push is not going to be easy to hold.
Yep.
Depending how it's executed. Look at how well this +2 attack timing is going to shape up with the rest of the attack.
Yeah, the Blink has just finished here as well. The pylons are on the way here. Verdi going back to that pylon standard as the Roaches do poke forwards, trying to kill off a few of these. Will get one for his troubles.
And that's actually a bit of a problem as well. He didn't only lose the pylon, but he also lost the probe. So if the second pylon gets taken out, then suddenly his warp in point is gone.
Yeah.
But this is a massive amount of Stalkers that we already have on the map. 24 and the sentries for the Guardian Shield and the initial force fields, and here we go.
Yeah, he's going to push in here. This is actually a really good angle for him to be pushing in against. Good force fields as well. Steal off a lot of those Roaches in the back. He's going to do a lot of damage to the one in the front. And will he be able to chase down the rest? He's going to kill off the Spine Crawlers without the Roaches even tickling him there.
And at the same time, we don't have those Infestors. They are just now popping out. They will have the initial fungal. The timing is a little bit off here. Verdi is pushing his way now into the natural of his opponent. And he's close enough to use force fields on the ramp if he has the sentries there.
He has one at least, and he goes for the force field. Really, really nicely done. That's going to cut off a lot of the reinforcements. Paranoid right now, currently supply blocked.
That's
Verdi putting on so
horrible.
much pressure.
Look at how many Overlords he lost. He's supply blocked heavily at this point. And we have Verdi moving into the third base now, trying to take down these Roaches. Here come the Infestors with a fungal, trying to blink by Verdi, escaping with as many Stalkers as possible. But this is still a tough battle for Paranoid. I'm not quite sure if he can win this.
Oh, and Verdi's taking a supply lead right now, thanks to that supply block that he forced his opponent into. And from here, I mean, he still kind of has that good critical mass of Stalkers. He can easily take out this third from this point on. More reinforcing, and the Infestors don't have any energy left.
Exactly, one of the Infestors already dead, and he blinks up the ramp. He wants to finish it right now. He takes down the Infestors, and Verdi, after losing map 1 against Paranoid, it looks like he's gonna claim the best of 3.
Yeah, it does. Verdi battling back here. Really nice blink micro. GG. Wow, Verdi. That was impressive play by him.
Yeah, I love to see the strategy again. And on this map, with the early gate that he had, he tried to get his tech out a little bit faster, took the expansion, and the problem for Paranoid really not identifying early enough what was happening here. He saw it with the Overseer, but that was already a little bit too late.
Yeah, it was. So guys, we're going to head over to the analysis desk with Jarrett, Kevin, and Jon.
Welcome back to the analyst desk. Verdi clinched the win in Game 3 with another all-in. And a confusing build. We had to bring in Apollo for a more consultation over here to see what was happening, and I heard over here a lot of laughing, a lot of general confusion. Was his strategy to confuse his opponent, who's so good at scouting in the first game, and say, hey man, I'll just do the weirdest stuff so he has no idea what's happening whatsoever?
It was definitely a hard build to follow. He opens up with a fast gateway expand, fast core, and we were kind of talking with Todd and Apollo. They thought then, you add a couple of gateways, you do some pressure because you're going to get like that relatively fast warp gate, and instead he kind of did like a gateway expand that became a forge expand. He just like builds a forge, makes a cannon, and sits on that one or two gateways and doesn't really do a whole lot with it. And so it seemed like even at one point he researched hallucination. We weren't really sure what that was about, and it seemed like he wanted to go a forge expand into a 7-gate blink, which is +2 7-gate blink. But he wanted to do it in a really roundabout way so that if whatever his opponent scouted, they would kind of get a bad read on it. They would see like, okay, it's a gateway expand, so he'll probably do some gateway pressure. But he didn't. And I think Todd's going to show us a little bit more about really what led to some more success in that game for Verdi.
Yeah, you introduced this game very well. Basically, he got hallucination, which either hints a macro game where you take a third and you try to scout with hallucination, or you try to fake something with your hallucination. You show some immortal, for example, but then you go for something else. But in this game, he made hallucination. He only sent one Phoenix here to see exactly how was the tech going and the droning, but no surprise here really. And Paranoid saw this hallucinated Phoenix here, so he probably thought this was going to be a third base or of some sort. But I mean, Paranoid he does not really try to scout the third here, and I think this is a mistake. And he really expected Verdi to do some kind of pressure again, like I said before. Like he's been playing very aggressive in this series, and we saw that again, a 2-base timing in this game. And I guess Paranoid was right in that sense, but Verdi, like he added on a lot of gates now, and he went for the big blink pressure, or I guess you can say all in with +2. And Paranoid, he chose to go for Infestors, except the timing hit just right before the Infestors got out. So Verdi, he already started trading Stalkers for Roaches, or for a lot of units. And he never let Paranoid get up to like 6 Infestors with enough energy for Fungal, which is really what you need against those Stalkers if you want to win with Infestors. So Paranoid, he would have needed Mass Links Roach and Roaches if you wanted to kill this army really well. Or he would have needed a lot of Infestors. And Verdi, he actually did not scout the Infestation Pit, but I guess he was expecting his opponent to go for that. So now he hits at like 10-20, and Pathogen Glance is on the way. Paranoid is going to start a couple Infestors here, but he's trying to hold here to buy himself some time with those Roaches and Spines. But I mean, those Stalkers, that's all they want. They want to engage into those Roaches, be able to force field Guardian Shield. They can blink back. No one of them is going to die, not even lose shield a lot of the time. So now he kind of donates his sentries, but I mean, look at his concave he has. He's just going to be able to kill a lot of Roaches for free here. And Paranoid does not know what to do. He starts pulling back, but 3 Infestors are on the way. Only 3 Infestors. I mean, there is so many Stalkers. He's warping more Stalkers 8x8 because he's on 8 gates. They have +2. The Roaches only have +1. So Verdi, this timing is actually really strong, but Paranoid maybe not good enough with the small details, getting his Infestors maybe a bit later than you supposedly can get them at. And Verdi now, he's just pressing in a perfect spot between those hatches. The units are basically being filtered by those. They will block each other if they try to run into those Stalkers. So it's a very difficult situation for Paranoid. He tries to regroup, but he was supply blocked because the Stalkers were able to snipe a couple of those overlords. So finally he has 2 Infestors here. And he starts killing some of the Stalkers, but there's just so many. There's more Stalkers than there is Roaches. Like, you cannot win this kind of fight as Zerg when that happens. I feel like what Paranoid needed was a lot of links here. Maybe go into some kind of fling Infestor style at some point, get less Roaches. But that's not what he did. And maybe he missed some injects, because you're supposed to have much more supply at this time for the Zerg. But I guess the timing that Verdi went for here really threw Paranoid off his game.
Yeah, it definitely seemed like, from Paranoid's perspective, he wasn't really in the loop of what Verdi was doing. I felt like his scouting this game was actually a bit weaker than we saw in the other games. Like game 1 on Daybreak, it really felt like Paranoid had a read, yes, a good read on exactly what Verdi was doing. He reacted very well strategically, and in this game, like you said, he didn't even know that there was no third, and that just kind of led to this attack being very, very effective.
Exactly.
All right. Well, good end. Solid series. Our first series of the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. Pretty good, huh? Practice that in the bathroom. We are going to go to a quick commercial before we come back with our next series, which is TLO versus Nordi. And we'll have more information about that shortly. In just a moment.